Minister Enoch, who will share quite a few words, I hope. We're delighted to have her here with us today. My name's Darren Mew. I'm the Executive Manager of Blue Chip here in Queensland. Then we'll hear from Jimmy, a little bit from myself, and we've got a very special guest here today, which we'll share later, and of course, closing out with our CEO of Blue Chip, Charles Northcott. Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Darren, and of course thank you very much everybody for coming along. I will begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathering today and pay my respects to elders past and present. Obviously an important day to do that, as is every day, but when we look at the anniversary of the national apology to the stolen generations, and of course the work that's happening nationally with regards to a voice to Parliament and the work that is happening here in Queensland with regards to treaty, it's always important to ensure that we're acknowledging that we do live on land that has seen cultural practices maintained for thousands of generations. But also just want to, of course, acknowledge all of the guests here today, in particular the member for Stafford, Jimmy Sullivan, the CEO of Blue Chip, Charles Northcott, and of course Darren Mew, who's the Executive Manager for the Queensland and Northern Territory for Blue Chip Limited. I do also want to acknowledge a resident from another block of units that we were very pleased to be able to open not that long ago, Simone, who is currently a resident over in the Lutwyche complex, and it's really great to have you here today as well. But today we get to stand in a building that is very much just about to be completed and very much nearly ready for new tenants to be able to move into and enjoy this part of the world. We know that we need to ensure that we're building more and more social and affordable homes across the state, and this particular location here at Lutwyche, in partnership with Blue Chip, the Queensland Government has been able to invest some $20.5 million to support the building of this complex. Now, this particular complex has 42 two-bedroom units. It is very much a twin, if you like, to the complex that was built in Lutwyche by Blue Chip and the Queensland Government. Together, these two buildings will be able to house some 80 households, which is an exciting development in terms of ensuring that we're getting more stock into the system. This particular location, of course, is very close to public transport and all of the services that quite often people who are securing social housing will require. The sister property at Lutwyche as a total includes now a total of 80 units right across the two complexes, and of course I've mentioned Simone is here, who can tell you a bit about her experiences of living in that particular complex. Now, the state government has commenced more than 5,000 social homes since we came to office in 2015, and that number will increase to 13,000 by 2027 as a result of our investments and, of course, our housing action plans. We've continued to invest in this space. Recently, we doubled our housing investment fund to $2 billion, and recently the Treasurer announced some further opening of that funding as we secure more and more opportunities just like the one that we're standing in right today. And of course there is another announcement today. Not only have we been seeing these properties come into this housing stock that we desperately need, and of course we're seeing more and more commencements right across our state. The work that we do with our community housing providers has been absolutely fundamental to a lot of this work. And that's why today I can announce a significant milestone that we have been able to fund now our 500th commencement by a community housing provider since July 2021. That particular announcement is related to a commencement in Kingaroy, and Regional Housing Limited will build 3 two-bedroom social homes with a $1 million Queensland Government investment through the land that we've been able to provide and the land that's been provided by Council. So you can see that we are not only building more properties right now, and we're seeing the completions of these properties like this one here, in Windsor and in Lutwyche, but we're seeing commencements right across Queensland. And we'll continue to see that through our record investment in social and affordable housing, now some $3.9 billion over a period of time, to ensure that we are spot purchasing, that we are commencing traditional property builds, so that we've got the pipeline of work that's happening. And of course that we're head leasing where we can, to have that multiple effect with regards to supporting those who are acquiring social and affordable housing. So I do want to acknowledge Blue Chip and the work that Hutchinson's Builders have been doing in partnership with Blue Chip to get these properties to the point where we're able to get people into them, like Simone, and that ultimately is the goal, to be able to support people, in some instances change their lives through the kind of work that's happening right across our state. So on those few words, I'll hand over to Jimmy. This is in his neck of the woods as the local state member for Stafford, and I know that he's a huge supporter of social housing, not just in his area, but right across our state. Over to you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you again for coming out to the North Side. It's great to see you here delivering more social housing for the North Side and across the state. I've stamped the Minister's passport. She's crossed the river again. It's all good. We were here just in October opening the sister facility just up the road in Lutwyche, and we're so proud of what we have delivered here on the North Side. The Minister was out here again just before Christmas opening up new facilities in Kedron, where we had homemade sausage rolls from the residents, which were beautiful. We've got more facilities on the way in Orderly, already under build in building and construction in Chermside and in Chermside West. There's so much going on in this community. We're really proud of the social and affordable housing that we have in our community. We're not a suburb by suburb sort of community. We're actually really proud that we have in the one street social and affordable housing, first homeowners, retirees, and $1 million homes with city views within 100 metres of each other. That's our community. We think it helps us thrive, and we're really proud that we come together. Thank you to Blue Chip for their partnership with government in what they deliver. These are facilities that all of us would be happy to live in, would be proud to call home, and we're really, really glad that we can provide that for Queenslanders who need it. So thank you, Minister, for today, and thank you to Blue Chip.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you all for being here today. These homes here in Windsor, together with the sister project in Lutwyche, represent the start of something much bigger that we hope for Blue Chip, as we, together with the state and others, including community housing providers across Queensland, play a really important role in solving the housing crisis. These are not problems of our making today. They're the collective accumulation of problems over generations. So working together is very much at the heart of what we do at Blue Chip. These projects are really the culmination of the dedicated work from incredible professionals, both at the state government and here at Blue Chip and throughout the sector, who share a purpose, a common purpose, to make affordable housing available for everyone, particularly here in Queensland. It's our collective responsibility to solve these problems. And as a Tier 1 community housing provider, build to rent is what we do. We retain the ownership. We work with local organisations, including Jacaranda Housing, who's here today, another CHP in Queensland, to retain these homes in perpetuity. All investment into community housing providers, all investment that has gone into this building today is captured. It will be recycled and retained in perpetuity for the purpose of providing affordable housing to Queenslanders. There's no leakage, there's no loss. We're a not-for-profit, it's captured, it's retained. This week at the Property Council of Australia's function, we heard from ANZ Chief Economist, who pointed out some wonderful news and some challenging news. The net migration from interstate to Queensland is enormous. We have the borders opening. We have sustained private housing costs, and we have rental prices that are going through the roof. Now, they're all great news in a standard set of economic conditions, but that's terrible news for housing affordability at large. So there's never been a more important time for us to work together to harness the state's investment into community housing providers to create these long-term benefits. As a property professional, and what Blue Chip does is make housing available for people in need. We know what we're good at. We're good at making the housing happen. But I'm delighted to be joined today by one of the people who benefits from our work, the very reason we show up to work every day, and that's Simone. Simone, can I welcome you to the stage? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Simone. I've just recently moved into the twin building in Lutwyche, and it's changed my life. For over 12 months, I've been part of the hidden homeless. We think that, you know, the homeless are out on the street and they're visible, but we're not. We're the people that are living in cars. We're the people that are sleeping on the floor of their brother's home. We're the people that are moving from friend's house to friend's house, just desperately trying to get a leg into the private rental market that is, it's inaccessible for many of us. I have a disability, so my only income now is a disability allowance. And while I'm very grateful for that, it doesn't pay the bills in a market where rent is just increasing and increasing and increasing. To have been given a home as beautiful as the one you see here is an absolute game changer for myself and my son. When I went to the property for the first time and opened the door, I couldn't believe that I would be able to move into such a high quality, beautiful home. It's given me my dignity back. Being homeless for over 12 months, you lose your sense of self, you lose all your self-esteem, and I think the worst thing is that you start to lose hope. Having a home, and one, as I've said, is beautiful and to such a high standard, it's given me back my sense of self. It's given my son confidence again to go out into the world and do. He's at TAFE studying. Hopefully I'll be able to go back to work, albeit in a reduced capacity. Without a home, none of those things are possible. None of those things are possible, and I couldn't be more grateful to the Queensland Government, to Blue Chip, and especially to Jacaranda Housing, who've been so supportive and so understanding. I'm so very grateful, and I literally wake up every day and just think how lucky I am. So thank you to all of you.
And it's a credit to Simone, who didn't know she would have the opportunity to speak today, and so heartfelt thank you and gratitude.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think the voices that aren't being heard are conspicuously absent, and so Simone, thank you for giving those people and yourself a voice. Charles, can I invite you to speak?
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Minister and Simone. That's why we do what we do. I came out of corporate life, I'm going to say now, about 14 years ago. Time sort of marches on, and we've been steadily at Blue Chip doing and providing for people such as you. And what inspires me is to hear your story, and I know the Minister felt the same, because, as you rightly said, a home is the foundation of life. And we've always had that in our catchphrase, and we want to make a difference to people's lives. And when we look at your son, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, when people are in difficult circumstances, so you know where, say your son was 3, where they'll be, you can pretty much predict where they'll be at 30, and that'll cost the taxpayer, if they are not able to achieve and grow, as we all have, that'll cost the taxpayer about $1.5 million a year. So interventions by putting people on housing, giving them education, changing their lives is not only great for the people, but it's also very sound business sense in the way that we help be able to fund more and save taxpayer money by just changing people's lives. Here at Blue Chip, we're absolutely proud to be in Queensland. Darren, he's been working for me now, and George, for I think about 8 years now, Darren. We've got Ben, we've got Tim, who's just recently come. You normally can't miss Tim, he's so tall at the back there. He makes up for the others. But the great thing is we have a great team, and what you realise with people that have been dedicated through this last 8 years, we're seeing that fruition of that hard work. And George is now part of our greater national team, and he's doing work right throughout the country. And so we have a really key level of expertise, and we're really looking forward to getting into the HIF in a significant way and deliver a whole lot more houses across Queensland. And I know we're doing some up the coast as well, aren't we, Darren? And that's what it's about. The more we can put on the ground, the more people will change lives, and that's what Blue Chip's all about, making a difference. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
When you see the demand that is needed for social and affordable housing across the state, how do you decide what 80 tenants get to come into a property like this?
Yeah, well, obviously we have a very strong social housing register, and our local housing service centres manage all of those people and households who are on that register, and we look, of course, to the highest possible need, and that's who we work with. And of course, it's also about matching the right kind of needs and personalities with the kind of location, so that you've got the right mix of people in the particular building. But working with community housing providers like Jacaranda Housing and others, you know, they help a great deal in all of that to manage the actual building or the complex or the particular house to make sure that we've got the right supports around the right people.
And it's mentioned here that 1 and 2 bedroom apartments seem to be the best suited for the needs out there. What are some of those needs, and what are the kinds of tenants we've seen here?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been seeing over a long period of time the changing demographic and need, more demand for 1 and 2 bedroom properties, particularly for those who may be older or living with a disability. And certainly we're seeing, not just in public and social housing, affordable housing, but right across the spectrum, more people, smaller households. We're seeing that demographic changing right across the spectrum. So, of course, that's reflected in social and affordable housing. These kinds of properties that we have here, and ones that I've opened right across the state or turned the sod on or had site inspections on, these 1 and 2 bedroom properties are also very useful in terms of helping particularly older residents who may have raised their families in social housing, currently in 3 bedroom properties, help them to downsize and move into more suitable properties, freeing up those larger homes for families that need them as well. So it's really helpful to ensure that we're seeing more 1 and 2 bedroom units. And certainly that is what is very much in demand on our social housing register. We're seeing that more and more as that register is managed.
And is this, sorry, does that just mean that no families, you know, with 1 kid or more would be living here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Families can live here. It is a 2 bedroom unit, so I imagine that there'll be quite a focus on looking at the right mix of tenants. Some older, some couples, some small families might live here. And we're seeing that in other places as well. There are many 2 bedroom units that we see in other parts of the state where that's exactly what's happening. Small families, sometimes single mothers with their 1 or 2 children, sometimes those who might have been fleeing domestic and family violence, for instance. These are ideal in terms of size and ideal in terms of meeting the needs of those smaller families as well.
And was this project the result of the returns from the $2 billion infrastructure fund, or was this in the works earlier?
This was already in the works, but obviously this is the example of what we want to see right across the state. And the Housing Investment Fund, now a $2 billion fund, enables us to continue to do this work, to build the pipeline of these kinds of projects right into the future. That $2 billion fund can be drawn down from forever to ensure that we're building more and more of these kinds of properties to meet the needs of those who are coming to government for assistance. So this is a great example, and we're seeing this being replicated right across Queensland as a result of our continued investment.
This building and others like it will help a small portion of those struggling. How do we help the rest, like Simone's story, who are struggling right now? What's the immediate relief for them?
Yeah, and look, that's a really good question. And that came through in the Housing Summit as well. that need to be able to ensure that we've got the pipeline of work and that we're seeing these kinds of buildings actually get to the finish end and have people put in, be able to apply and be put into these properties, but also to look at what do we do right now. And that's why of the $56 million of new funding that came as a result of the Housing Summit, it was very much focused on that support aspect of it. So not only did we double some of the funding that we put in place around crisis and emergency support to ensure that families could sustain their tenancies where they were over that Christmas period, but we also looked at other opportunities, in particular purchasing or spot purchasing properties. So just the other weekend I announced, for instance, almost 30 units that we spot purchased in Clayfield, and we'll see those come online soon. Where we've seen, of course, other examples where other entities are coming forward to the government and saying we've got these particular resources that we could be repurposing for people right now, and we're doing that. We are head leasing. We've got over 2,000 head leases now that we utilise to support people into tenancy. So we're looking at every possible aspect, helping people sustain their current tenancy through those crisis and emergency support that we put in place, including doubling the amount of money to Food Bank, for instance, so families don't have to choose between feeding their family and paying the rent. And then, of course, those spot purchase opportunities like the Clayfield one, there'll be more of those to come. And, of course, the head leasing opportunity where, as I said, over 2,000 right now, where the government leases the property and then we lease them to social and affordable housing tenants. So all of those things are being put in place, and it was very much a point of conversation at the Housing Summit, which we are now delivering on, of course.
Do you have the numbers for how many people have accessed that private rental assistance or the cost of living relief measures since the Housing Summit and that money?
Yeah, so another really good question. So we're formulating all of that. Obviously, we've been able to put even more funding into our housing and homelessness sector. Very much welcome, let me tell you. Every single organisation from the housing and homelessness sector was very grateful to receive that funding, to absolutely be able to get more workers on the ground, and of course to have that brokerage funding to support people in need at that time. So we're getting those numbers now. Obviously over the Christmas period there's been a lot of assistance that's been provided to people, and we're just getting those numbers from those housing, homelessness services organisations now to be able to provide that full picture.
And so last year the Auditor General made some recommendations about social housing. Can you give us an update on where we are with those recommendations?
Yeah, well, those recommendations are absolutely timely and very much focused on the way that we manage the social housing register. So the department had already begun many of those recommendations before that report was released, which I am very much focused on to ensure that that continues on, making sure that we're very clear about how we support those who are on the social housing register. That work is continuing, of course, and absolutely supplemented by the adjacent work that we're doing as a result of the Housing Summit. And that outcomes report is driving further work that is reflective of the audit report, but of course driving us even further, understanding the changing nature of the housing market that we're seeing right now. With increased interest rates and the pressures that we're seeing on families, of course we need to be able to be nimble and move as quickly as possible to support those who are becoming under housing stress.
Just before, you mentioned as well that the government commenced 5,000 social homes since 2015. How many are finished versus unfinished?
Yeah, so since 2015 we have commenced over 5,000 social and affordable homes, and we have completed over 4,000 since we came to government. So that is absolutely remarkable, and we continue to do that. As I said, the over 5,000 that we've commenced, that will increase to some 13,000 by 2027 due to the record investment from the Palaszczuk government in this space. I mean, almost $4 billion now with regards to social and affordable housing and our housing strategy moving forward. And, that's an important part of building the pipeline of work, but also supporting the work that needs to be done right now.
Are you confident you can meet that target? Because that's quite a large jump considering it's been
I am confident because in the first year of the second action plan of our housing strategy, we had a target of 727 commencements, and the department absolutely smashed that target with over 830 commencements in that period. And they continue to work very, very hard with organisations like Blue Chip and other community housing providers to absolutely keep putting the pressure on to get as much of this work in the pipeline. And of course, this is supported by other work that the Treasurer has been announcing through the Build to Rent program. Over 750 dwellings supported as a result of government policy around some trial work with regards to build to rent. And of course the work that we're seeing from the Deputy Premier's department with regards to unlocking more land. $200 million was committed to be able to unlock more land across Queensland to see more dwellings being built across Queensland. So all of these things together are designed to be able to increase stock into our system.
Minister, do you think the Deputy Premier's comments on Friday attacking that Townsville magistrate were acceptable and appropriate for the Deputy Premier to make?
Well, look, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a judge, but I recognise that the community have expectations about our courts to do their job, and that's what the Deputy Premier was reflecting on, and you know he's right to say that.
But to say it was a media stunt, those sorts of comments should be kept separate for an MP to make in regards to the judiciary. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, look, as I said, I'm not a lawyer. I don't front court. I'm not a judge. But I hear the community, and the community's expectations of our courts is for them to do their job. And I think that's really what the Deputy Premier was reflecting on.
Do you think you should apologise for those comments or withdraw them?
I think he's right to reflect on the community's expectations, and that's all he was doing.
Do you support the comments in their sense?
As far as I'm concerned, I hear it from the community in terms of their expectations of our courts and their ability to do their job. As I said, I'm not a lawyer. I can't speak from that perspective, but certainly speaking from you know what the community expectations are, I think his comments are a reflection of that.
Can I just say one further thing? Thank you, Minister. I really appreciate having you here, absolutely, as always. I'm a director of Chair National, which is the community organisation that covers all CHPs across the country. The HIF program that we have currently done by the state is actually laying the platform for the Australian HAF program. And I just want to commend what Queensland has been doing in the sense of getting their funds, getting organised. And when we talk about delivering these homes, we at Blue Chip are extremely confident of delivering these homes. We have a pipeline working with the government that we know we will smash it out, but we were looking at the HIF to do a considerable more, and then we'll have HAF, which we're working nationally across, particularly the eastern seaboard states where we operate. So there is a lot of investment going in that we haven't seen for some considerable period of time. Yes, we have a crisis right now. I don't disagree with it, and we're seeing this happen particularly in New South Wales as well as we're seeing it in Queensland. But you've got to do something now that does take time to build homes, and it will make a difference. These homes will be here for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years because they're built with true quality, and that's what it's about, and that's what will make a real difference over the long haul. But this crisis didn't happen yesterday. It happened since really 1996. That's where it's been developing from. So I really want to thank you. It's great, and this is a fantastic building. And I don't know whether Mark Wall from the department is still here, but Mark has been really there he is around the back, has worked really hard with us, and you know, the people in the back room who do the work make a real difference, and we're very appreciative of the department and what they've done. So thank you very much for all coming today. Thank you.
We'll have a quick visit with the pool around.
You do that, Darren.